So let's go ahead and get right into the NFL Week 1 rundown. So we kick off the 2023 NFL season on hollow ground as the reigning Super Bowl champs played host to the fighting, scrapping, kneecap biting, fighting Dan Campbells. You could feel it in the air as Patrick Mahomes ended up being the only competent player for the Chiefs on offense that night, as Kels had to sit out with a hyperextended knee, not via Dan Campbell. Not to mention Chris, my dick fell out Jones, who also decided to not play in honor of the late, great Norma Hunt. The Lions' ground game was able to get going early as we got our first glimpse of, baby, if you give it to me, I'll give it to you. I won't score the touchdown, though. David can have it, as the Lions were able to seal the deal on the ground late after Kadarius Toney and the rest of the receiving corps played drop it like it's hot all night long. Lions roar into the 2023 season with a road victory as they win 21-20.
Down to hot Atlanta, where Desmond Shitter looked to right the ship after a poor couple of starts last year. Only one thing stood in his way, as Brysus and that Carolina offense was firing early on, and they tied it up early at 7 apiece. But much like Brysus, the Falcons weren't looking for peace, as Tyler Algier said, "Remember me," and was able to score on the first 2 times on the ground, the 2 times in the fourth quarter, to give the Falcons a 14-point win at home to start the season. And the Falcons get a big division win, 24-10.
Next, we head over to First Energy Stadium, located in one of the boroughs just outside the heart of Cleveland. The only problem was Joe was nowhere to be seen. In what has become a tradition unlike any other, Burrow once again looked like just any other average Joe off the street in Week 1, as the Bungles were only able to squander a measly field goal against the Brownie the Elf-inspired defense. The Browns, on the other hand, were ready to let the dogs loose as they ran for over 200 yards on the ground in this one, including a Chubba Choo-Choo, who ran for over 100 yards on his own. The Cleveland Browns, opened the season with a victory, 24-3.
Over to Lucas Oil Stadium, where the roof was closed for this one, a factor never to be overlooked in Indianapolis. The assault weapon himself, Anthony Richardson, AR-15, got his first start and hit for the cycle in this one, throwing a touchdown, running for a touchdown, and made his very first rookie mistake, as AR-15 turned the ball over late with a chance to go on a game-winning drive. But the more things change, the more they stay the same, as Dabo Swinney's children sealed the deal late with another touchdown drive. And here on the Show Me Show podcast, we just want to say welcome back to the big leagues, Mr. Calvin Ridley. We are all betting on you to have a great year, including yourself probably. Jags win 31-21.
We zip back up north to Minneapolis, where the Vikings look to get off on the right foot early in this 2023 football season as they hosted the lowly Tampa Bulls Buccaneers. A noon kickoff at home against an inferior opponent. You can't cook up a better formula for a Kirk Cousins masterclass performance. But while Todd Bowles might be a dead man walking, that Tampa defense was very much alive as they flew around the field all day long, holding Justin Jefferson and the Vikings to just 17 points. And speaking of cooking, it was the chef himself, Baker Mayfield, who showed some real flashes in the pan in this one, throwing for 2 touchdowns, which was just enough to get the job done as the Buccaneers shocked Skull Nation here in Week 1, 20-17.
Next, we head up to the sanitation capital of the world as Vrabel's Tits look to grab a road win early on in the season against known domestic terrorist Dennis Allen and newly acquired fallen star Derek Carr. But much like NOLA, this game stunk up TVs all across our great nation and quickly became an eyesore for all viewers. Without ever knowing anything about Ryan Tannehill, you would have assumed that he was a former wide receiver playing quarterback in this game. So he had one of the worst performances of his entire career, throwing 3 interceptions. And despite not scoring in the fourth quarter, the Saints were still able to secure a fourth quarter victory, as the Tits could not find the promised land down the stretch. And on the weekend, where we all remember the tragedies served to this great nation at the hands of terrorists, it hurts us here at the Show Me Show podcast to see Dennis Allen get a victory nonetheless. Saints win the sicko game of the week, 16-15.
We head out to the great Steel City, where Mike Tomlin looked to get another 500 or above campaign started against a very tough opponent in the Niners. While he didn't knock your Brocs off with his play, Purdy did more than enough to cruise in this one, as Ed McCaffrey's son ran for 150 yards and a touchdown, and Ayuk had the Blue State chanting, "Let's go, Brandon," from their $500,000 one-bedroom apartments, as he went for 129 yards and 2 tutties. Kenny was tempting the Niners defense to pick it all afternoon, throwing bad pass after bad pass that got Pittsburgh overwhelmed early, and it became too much to mount a comeback. Niners channel their inner fans and Steel win in the Steel City, 30-7.
Next, we head to Raljon, Maryland, where the good folks of D.C. look to start a brand new era. After ending the dictator regime of Dan Snyder, the Taliban now has control of the area, and the fans are absolutely electrified after he threw for 200 yards and a touchdown, despite all efforts from the Cardinals' defense to drone strike him. But just like their QB's chance at growing hair, the Cardinals' offense didn't stand a shot, as they put up just 9 points, all from the leg of Matt Crater. Commies get their first win of the season, 20-16.
Up the coast, after a skip and a hop, we land in the heroin capital of the world, where the Baltimore Ratbirds look to get off to a hot start against the very much meddling Houston Texans. Things were chippy early on, as the Stroud boys were out in full force singing to the tune of "We Don't Like Your Kind" around here, as they were able to keep the game close going to half, only trailing by 1 point. But as it turns out, sometimes we do find justice in this country, as Hill punched it in on the goal line twice for John Harbaugh's squad, which was more than enough to keep the Stroud boys at bay. And for C.J. Stroud, he didn't look all that stupid as his combine test showed, despite not reaching the end zone. Maybe D'Amico has something cooking down in the H-Town. Either way, Ravens win, 25-9.
Now over to the gem of the Midwest that is Soldier Field, where Bustin' Fields look to turn around this new era of Bears football. And while me and Cam have no bitches, love was certainly in the air in the Windy City, as Jordan Love looked to reclaim the Packers' parental guardianship over the Hallis-owned organization after giving it away this past Father's Day. Jordan showed off his zip early on, hitting Romeo Juliet Dobbs for a touchdown in the back of the end zone. Per usual, things continued to spiral out of control for the Bears after that. And once again, the more things change, the more they stay the same, as the Packers push the Bears all over the place on their way to a dominant road win, 38-20.
We make our way over to the Rocky Mountains, where the new sheriff in town, that is Sean Payton, looked to right this sinking Broncos ship. Only one thing stood in their way: the sexiest man to ever grace this earth, Jimmy Garoppolo. Russell Wilson almost looked all the way back in the first half, throwing 2 touchdown passes, but William Klutz missed an early extra point, which was all the difference in the world, as Jimmy G was able to find Jacoby Michael Myers, killing the defense on 2 separate occasions, as he caught 2 touchdown passes in this one. I'm sure Brandon McManus was laughing somewhere as the Raiders win this one by a fingernail, 17-16.
Up to New England, where Mac Jones was asked to simply not screw up Tom Brady's big day as they unveiled the biggest lighthouse in the world for the GOAT. But the city of Philly had been saying "fuck England" since the dawn of this great nation, and the reigning NFC champs came out hot as Darius Big Play Slay picked off McCorkle and took it all the way to the lighthouse. Bill Belichick looked like the wettest dog in the entire world, but as the great DMX said, "I bark very little, but I know how to fight," as the Patriots came roaring back, scoring 14 unanswered to only trail by 2 at the half. The Eagles had to rely on old Jake Elliott as he kicked 3 second-half field goals to grow their lead, but Kendrick Jason Bourne didn't go quietly into the night as he scored a second touchdown to get the Pats back in it. But ultimately, the Eagles' defense would stand on their head, maybe even spin on their head too, one last time to seal the deal. And the Eagles crash the party and win this one, 25-20.
Over to California, where they know how to party, as Boltman and his Chargers look to put Tuanon to a screeching halt. But in a touching tribute to Eric Carmona, our beloved fallen leader of Tuanon, Tua threw for 466 yards and 3 touchdowns. But in another touching tribute to one of our favorite football conferences, Justin Herbert and the Chargers channeled their inner West Coast Pac-12 at night vibes, and this one quickly became a shootout. No offense to Tupac. But it was Mike McDaniels who got the last laugh as Tua found Tyreek Hill late in the fourth quarter for the go-ahead touchdown. And while the over was crushed in this game, maybe the bigger story is that we might have an emerging MVP candidate coming out of Miami. Dolphins win 36-34. Expect us.
Tua at the top of the passing yards leaders, huh? What's he doing up there? Up the coast to Seattle, where the other team from LA was looking to steal one from Geno Smith's Seahawks. The Hawks got the scoring going early on, but then it was St. Louis native Kyren Williams, shout out, who got into the end zone twice on Sunday for the Rams. But I hope you brought your dancing shoes because Tutu Atwell was able to do a ballet all over the Seahawks secondary to the tune of 119 yards on 6 catches. In fact, the Seahawks defense was spinning so much, they puka all over the place. And BYU product Nakua caught 10 passes for 119 yards as well. The Seahawks played so bad in the second half, you would have found yourself saying, oh my God, as they ran only 14 plays in the second half and ended up getting blown out at home. Maybe McVay and Stafford have something cooking here, Cam, as the Rams win 30-17.
Over to MetLife Stadium, where the G-Men played host to the Cowboys. Well, if you came for an epic fat head coach showdown, you were quickly disappointed, as Daniel was not able to keep up with the Joneses, turning the ball over 4 times in the game. The Mike McShitta-led offense was able to capitalize all night long, and things got ugly fast for Dable and company, as they simply did not look like the playoff team from a year ago. The Giants might be as dead as Jerry Jones, but hey, it's week 1 for everyone. Cowboys throttle the G-Men on the road and win this one 40-0.
A massacre. We stay put at MetLife Stadium for Monday Night Football, where the Jets look to get the Aaron Rodgers era started with a bang on 9/11. But much like that fateful day 22 years ago, the Jets crashed and burned quickly as, shout out to the Towers, Aaron Rodgers' Achilles exploded on just the 4th play of the game. But just like that fateful day 22 years ago, New York had some unknown heroes come out of the woodworks as Jordan Whitehead picked off Josh Allen 3 times. In what looked like a game the Jets had no chance of winning, the Bills continued to piss down their leg until they couldn't anymore. As undrafted rookie and Ron Milheiser's boy, Xavier Gipson, took the Bills' punt in overtime all the way to the house, and the Zach Milson era is back on as Saleh's Jets get the win 22-16, but we all know they didn't really win. And that is what happened in week 1.